Hello, and welcome to Pokemon Lair. Today, we're going to be unboxing a box of 10 cards I sent to Professional Sports Authority, or PSA, over a year ago, and I just got them back. They come in a box like this, inside a bigger box, surrounded by packing, so they're safe and sound when you arrive them. They come in really packaged well in here, and they're pretty easy to get out of the box, sort of. They're a little hard. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. Review of a 2000 Pokemon Team Rocket Dark Slowbro, the number 29 card, a first edition. And we're looking at the surface of this card. There's no bends, scratches, or damage. We go ahead to the centering of the card, and it looks pretty good from side to side and top to bottom. And finally, we look at all the edges and the corners, and they look really crisp and clean with no damage. And looking at the back, we notice that the surface is really clean, no bends or scratches. We look at our centering from side to side and top to bottom. They look really close. We go ahead to our edges and corners. The edges look good. Our corners, the upper right and upper left, both have a very little fraying or damage. And that is enough to drop us to a Mint 9. Not too bad. I thought it might be a little worse. A review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Blaine's Moltres, a Holo First Edition, the number 1 card. And we start by looking at the surface of this card, and there is a very, very hard to see minor scratch on the Holo, but besides that, this card is perfect. And then you go ahead and look at the centering of this card, and this card centering is really, really good. From top to bottom and side to side, you continue to the edges of this card, and they are crisp and clean. There is no edge damage or fraying. Looking at the back of this card, you can see that there's no damage to the back of the card. Their centering looks really good from top to bottom and side to side, and there is no damage to the corners or edges. And with all that, let's see what happens because we have that scratch. Near mint 8, not too bad. This probably would have been a 10 if it didn't have that minor scratch. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Bronx Onix, a first edition number 21 card. We look at the surface card for any bends or scratches, and I don't see any or damage. We continue to the centering and top and bottom and side to side, and this one looks pretty good. Looking at the edges, I don't see any damage to the edges or the corners like fraying. Continuing to the back, we looked at there's no damage to the surface of the card like bends or scratches. We look at our centering, and our centering is very slightly to the left, probably within tolerance. But if you look at 3 of our corners, all except the lower left one, you'll see that there's a little fraying on those corners. And that will be a grade of Mint 9. Not too bad. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Erika's Clefable, a Holo First Edition, the number 3 card. And if you look at this card, you'll see that there's no damage to the surface of the card like bends or scratches. You look at the centering of this card from top to bottom and side to side. That is within tolerance. You start to look at the edges of this card, and you look around all the edges, and they look pretty good, except for the upper right top of the corner. Continuing to look at the back, you can see that the surface is really nice and clean. No bends or blemishes or scratches. You look at the centering from top to bottom and side to side. It is really nice. You go ahead and look at all the edges and the corners. There is no issue with any of those. They're nice, crisp, and clean. And with all that, we end up with a grade of Mint 9. Wow, that little bit on the top right corner kept us from a 10. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Brock's Sandslash, a first edition number 23 card. We look at the surface of the card for any bends, scratches, or blemishes. I don't see any. We go ahead to the centering of the card. The top and bottom looks good. The side to side looks good. We go ahead and look at the edges of this card, and they all look crisp and clean. The corners look really good. Looking to the back, we have a great surface, no bends or scratches. We look at our centering. Our centering looks pretty darn good from right to left and top to bottom. But if we start to look at our edges and corners, we'll see that our lower left and upper right both have a little damage or fraying. And that'll make it a grade of Mint 9. Like Mint 9s, you know, good job. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Erika's Vileplume, a first edition Holo, the number 5 card. We start by looking at the surface of this card, and we're looking for any scratches, blemishes, or bends. This one has none. We go on to the centering of this card, and it looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. We continue to look at the edges, and the edges look really clean. The corners are really nice. There's no fraying. Looking to the back, you can see that it's really crisp and clean. There's no damage to the back, no scratches or bends. You look at all the edges, and it looks really good except for the upper left corner. Our centering looks really good from side to side and top to bottom. And our grade will be a Mint 9. Nice. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Erika's Clefairy, the number 25 card. This one, we look at the front of the card. There's no bends, scratches, or damage. We continue to look at the centering of the card, and this one looks really good from left to right and top to bottom. We look at all our edges. Our edges are nice and clean. There's no fraying on the corners either. Looking at the back, you can see that the surface there's no bends, there's no damage to it. If we look at our centering, we can see that it's off on the lower left. And if you look at our edges and corners, you'll see the edges are pretty good, but there is some corner damage up on the upper right. And we'll see our grade is a near Mint 7. Ooh, that's sort of disappointing, but not too bad. Grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Lieutenant Surge's Fearow, a first edition Holo, the number 7 card. We start by looking at the surface of this card. And as you can see, there's no scratches, bends, or blemishes. We go ahead and look at the centering of this card, and it looks really good from top to bottom and side to side. And finally, we look at our edges and corners, and they look really good. No fraying or damage. Moving to the back, we're doing the same thing. On the surface of this card, there's no bends or scratches or damage. The centering looks a little off to the lower left, but our edges look really clean and crisp, and our corners look good. And that's going to give us a grade of Mint 9. I like it. Nice. Grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Lieutenant Surge's Electabuzz, first edition, the number 27 card. Looking at the surface and front of this card, there's no bends, scratches, or damage. Continuing to the centering of the card, there is no, it looks pretty centered from side to side and top to bottom. Continuing to the edges and corners of this front look really nice and clean. Continuing on the back, we see that there's no damage to the surface of the card like bends or scratches. We continue to the centering of the card, and it is off to the left a little, and then there's on the edges and corners, you'll see there's a little damage or fraying on the upper right corner. So with all that being found, we have a grade of near Mint 7. Not too bad. Grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Misty Seadra, a Holo first edition, the number 9 card. We look at the surface of this card for any scratches, blemishes, or bends, and we don't have any. We look at the corners and edges of this card, and they look really nice and crisp and clean. We go ahead to the centering, and the centering looks good from top to bottom and side to side. Looking at our back, you can see that there's no damage to the surface of the card, no scratches or blemishes. The centering on the card looks really good from left to right and top to bottom. As you look at our edges and corners, you will find that there's a little damage or fraying on the upper right corner of the back of this card. And that is going to give us a grade of Mint 9. Nice. Holo Seadra, Mint 9. Our grade review of a 2000 Pokemon Gym Heroes Misty's Cloyster, a first edition number 29 card. As we're looking at the front of the surface of this card, we're looking for scratches, bends, or damage, and there is none on this card. We continue to the centering, and the centering of this card looks really good from right to left and bottom to top. And we go to the edges and corners of this card, and they are really nice on the front of this card. Continuing to the back of the card, you're looking for the same stuff, and on the surface of this card it has no bends, scratches, or damage. Looking at the centering of this card, it looks a little off to the lower left, and if you look at our edges on our corners, there is a small bit of fraying on the upper right corner. And with all that, we have a grade of mint 9. Nice, another 9.